There's a level of audacity that goes far beyond ordinary entitlement. Ordinary entitlement looks like someone parking in your space and acting annoyed when you ask them to move. It looks like someone using your shared fence as a trellis without even asking. It's the everyday friction caused by people whose understanding of boundaries is just slightly off, where their sense of rights overlaps a bit too far into someone else's. What I'm describing is something entirely different. What I'm describing is someone who, after 7 months of using another person's pool without permission, returns to that same pool with 2 police officers and calmly claims that the pool belongs to her, and that the person who built it, paid for it, and maintained it for 7 years had no right to drain it. That isn't a minor misunderstanding of entitlement. That is a complete break from reality itself. It is someone confusing what they want with what actually exists, and then formalizing that confusion by involving law enforcement. To their credit, the officers did not accept that confusion as truth. Instead, they stood in my backyard and asked questions the way good officers do, methodically, carefully, try to understand what was actually happening rather than what someone believed was happening. What they discovered, as they asked those questions, was a documentation file I had been building for 7 months. It answered everything: ownership, installation, permits, maintenance records, and the exact sequence of events that led to this moment. This moment where a drained concrete pool sat in my backyard, while a woman named Sandra Fielding insisted to 2 uniformed officers that I had destroyed her property. I will explain that file, what it contained, why it existed, and how it came to be so detailed. But first, I need to explain the pool, because the pool is not just part of the story. The pool is the story. My name is Rachel Peton. I am 47 years old. I work as an accountant, and by nature I am methodical. I keep records the way some people breathe, not because I consciously think about it, but because not doing so feels impossible. I bought my house at 14 Cloverfield Road 15 years ago. At the time, there was no pool. I wanted one. 3 years later, I had one installed. It's an in-ground concrete pool, 22 by 44 feet, with a tile border along the waterline and concrete coping around the edge. It was installed by a company called Aqua Design Solutions, properly permitted to the county, and has been professionally maintained every week since. The installation was expensive. The upkeep is something I budget for. The pool is one of the more important things I own. Not the most valuable, but the one that has given me 12 years of summer evenings, weekend afternoons, and the simple luxury of cold water on hot days. It's a return on investment no spreadsheet can fully measure. Sandra Fielding moved into the house next door, 16 Cloverfield Road, 9 years after I bought mine. Her property shares my eastern fence line. She arrived with 2 young children and a set of opinions that quickly became known to anyone within earshot. Sandra was not subtle. She had strong preferences, and she voiced them openly. When reality didn't match those preferences, she voiced that too. Her interest in my pool surfaced about 3 months after she moved in. One Saturday morning in June, she knocked on my door and said her children would love to swim. She asked if I would mind if they used the pool occasionally. I told her I would think about it. I did think about it, and I decided that occasional, supervised access wasn't unreasonable. When she came back 2 days later, I told her yes, occasionally with her supervision was fine. The word occasionally carried a lot of weight in that agreement, and I should have defined it more clearly. To me, it meant once every couple of weeks, maybe on a nice weekend when I was home. To Sandra, it meant something very different. By July, she and her children were using the pool 4 days a week. By August, it was 5 days a week, and she had started bringing guests, her sister, her sister's children, and others I didn't know. By September, she had used my pool 17 times when I wasn't even home, apparently using a gate key she must have accessed during a maintenance visit, when it was briefly available. I addressed it directly that September. Calmly, clearly, I explained. I addressed it directly that September. Calmly, clearly, I explained that the original agreement had been occasional, supervised use, and that what had happened over the summer had gone far beyond that. I told her I wasn't comfortable with the number of people or the unsupervised access. I said the arrangement would be more limited moving forward. She said she understood, though her tone suggested she believed I simply wasn't as generous as she had assumed. I noticed that, but I didn't argue. I went back inside. Through October and November, nothing happened. The season was over. I installed a new lock on the gate. The following April, as I prepared the pool for summer, Sandra came back. She said she and the children were excited for another season and wanted to discuss arrangements. I told her there were no arrangements. I would not be offering pool access that year. She said that seemed unfair, given how much her children had enjoyed it. I said I understood, but my decision was final. She left, clearly unhappy. The next 3 months, May, June, and July, were when things escalated beyond something I could ignore. It started with a fence. The 6-foot wooden privacy fence between our properties had been there long before either of us. In late May, I noticed 2 boards near the pool had been loosened. Not from weather or age, but from force. They could be pushed inward, creating a gap about 18 inches wide. Sandra's property was on the other side. I repaired the boards, reinforced them, and secured them in a way that would make tampering obvious. In June, after returning from a week-long work trip, I found clear signs the pool had been used in my absence. The water chemistry was off, chlorine depleted from heavy use, and there was a stray flip-flop at the edge that wasn't mine. The reinforced fence boards had been forced open again. That's when I installed security cameras, 4 of them, covering every angle of the pool and fence, motion-activated, night-capable, recording the cloud storage with timestamps. By July, I began building the documentation file. The footage told a complete story. Sandra and her children entered through the fence gap 11 times that month. She brought guests 4 times. On 3 occasions, she came in the evening after I was asleep. Twice, she used my pool equipment without hesitation. I watched the footage each morning, not out of anger, but to build a clear, undeniable record. Every clip was saved, labeled, and organized. At the same time, I compiled all documentation related to the pool, the original